My last suggestion, I think that could possibly be maybe a fix. Sudden death round for main events and title matches. I'm not saying for every single fight because
But we should have sudden death in a fighting match, though.
maybe not literally. Not
maybe
literally.
rename it, right? Maybe rename it just for TV purposes and whatnot. But I'm saying for main events and title matches, we should have a, for lack of a better word, sudden death round where there's no time limit possibly, and the fighters go until they're stopped by the referee, corner throws in the towel, or they give up themselves. And now maybe if there wasn't a time limit, it could just be another, added 5 minutes. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that a sudden death round would be interesting?
Okay,
do you think
that these title fights can't end in the decision? There has to be a finish to them.
Has to be a clear, like any title fights that have been a draw or anything like that.
Well, in practice, that sounds awesome because that's going to leave no doubt to who won that fight. Like in Dominic Reyes' fight and John Jones' fight, there is doubt on who won that fight.
They do it in the Ultimate Fighter.
So you think we should just transition the Ultimate Fighter rules up into the main card of the UFC?
I think like main event and title matches only.
Not everyone, but for the main events and the
I think that'd be an easy way to fix controversy.
To your credit, if that no one can argue against a winner or a loser in that fight, then because it's not up to decision.
But I would hope that the UFC would take into account that is adding an extra round onto a fighter's, like in the contract, there has to be a clause. I think that if it goes to, another round, maybe that they get compensated for that extra round, or
they get a certain amount for every extra round that goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Based on a percentage or something, who knows?
If someone fights 6-7 rounds, I don't want them only getting paid for a 5-round fight. Of course, that's a very good point.
Right.
But
just looking out for the fighters.
Exactly. I think I'd like to see that in action. I would like to see that in action.
I think it's pretty interesting. What do you think, Jalen?
I don't know. I feel like adding that, because certain people, they fight their game plan for 5 rounds. Even if it's a close fight, I feel like it's adding that extra round or telling a fighter you have to keep going. There are some of those fighters who, like, let's say a guy is winning and then, because then you have to decide what do you think is, let's say it is a close fight. But it's like, yeah, but we think he won. Like, let's say they had gone with Felder last night. And then, but it was like let's say they say it's a close fight, so we have to keep going. But you have to think then you have to consider now it's a new rule. What is considered a close fight? Because then it's even judges are like, I don't think that was a close fight, but everybody else like that was a close fight. Then everyone's gonna be like, they should have gone the extra round, or that just creates a new thing for controversy. I feel like we need to fix what we have now before we go and add a whole nother round. Because then what if that last round is close? Or even if you do not have a time limit, then you're asking fighters to put themselves and bodies at risk for longer than they already have.
I think that's a good point. If we're talking about especially like a fight like the Dan Hooker and Paul Felder fight was, they weren't really going to quit. So that does put the health at risk of those fighters even more than it would be in just a 5-round fight, because those kind of fights do take.
That's why we have refs and doctors, though. I'm saying it's either a doctor stoppage, a corner throwing in a towel, or
so it doesn't have to be a knockout.
Yeah, but then it
doesn't have to end by knockout.
But then also it comes to the fact that if both fighters are messed up, when do you stop it and say this fighter is more messed up than that fighter? And when it comes down to that's
up to the professionals. It's gonna be like any other round.
But my opinion is what happens when it comes down to the people like Nate Diaz who have a lot of scar tissue and they just happen to bleed a lot.
Well, I mean, we already saw the answer to that one. They're going to stop that fight as soon as that big cut opens.
But everyone was mad about that too. That was a whole other problem.
Right. I mean, I'm not. This is a good. I think this is a good dialogue. It's a good argument on both sides. For me personally, I think that it could possibly change the mindset of certain fighters. Because they're not gonna be able to necessarily go for point fighting all the time and play it safe. They're gonna absolutely have to open themselves up to taking risks. If you add another 5 minutes at the least to another round, that's gonna put them in situations.
Yeah, I feel like that's when it comes down to. You have to think of fighters' longevity. Is a lot of fighters aren't the amazing fighters that we see today who are able to fight for a long time. They're not going to be able to fight for as long because it's going to be more of a damage based thing. People are going for damage, and then people are going to start getting hurt. And then when people don't want to do MMA anymore, the talent level starts going down because then the people who they have to start letting in to get more talent aren't up to standards. And I feel like that's when people start getting hurt and stuff. So it's having the set 5 rounds at most, or for other fights, 3 fights at most, and it's 5 minutes. It lets you know that you have this amount of time to get stuff done, and it makes fighters more aggressive. I feel like right now there are a lot of fighters who aren't. They don't get aggressive. They kind of just like give up at certain points, or they don't want to be the point. I think, first of all, in my opinion, this is kind of slightly off topic. I think corners need to start being more honest with their fighters. If you know your guy's losing, tell him he's losing. If he's losing,
feel like the Wilder fight and throwing the towel when you actually need to.
Yeah, it's just, it needs to be. Look, we had that one. If you know you didn't have that fight, tell them you don't have it, so they don't go into that last round just running around thinking they have it and they're down 2 rounds.
Arguably, like what Dominic Reyes did. That to your credit, that's
exactly. Dominic Reyes thought he won that and did.
Well, I mean, another round could incentivize them for not to fight like that too, though. If you think about it, I mean, leading into a fight, you don't want to go. If you don't want to go that extra round,
scores so they know what is actually happening.